students, welcome to the e-content lecture series on the subject botany. Today the topic of our lecture is taxonomy and diversity of Poaceae. As we all know that plants provide countless economic goods and life-supporting ecological services to the humankind. Of various kinds of plants that grow on the planet Earth, grasses are important source of food crops. It is in this context that today we are going to discuss the family. In this lecture, following aspects of the family Poaceae will be discussed. Number 1, taxonomy. Number 2, systematic position. Number 3, phylogeny. Number 4, diversity. And last and the 5th, economic importance. First, the taxonomy. As already mentioned, the Poaceae is commonly known as grass family. The term Poa is a Greek name for a type of grass. The family Poaceae was first established as a formal taxonomic category under the scientific name Gramineae by A.L. de Gisu in 1789. Later on, Poaceae as an alternate family name was necessitated due to the typification rule of International Code of Botanical Nomenclature. At the same time, Gramineae as a family name was also conserved due to its wide usage. The family members of Poaceae are distinctive in being herbs. Only the exception is bamboos, which are trees. They have hollow pith stems and have open sheathed leaves with a ligule at inner junction with leaf blade. They are also distinctive in having a spikelet inflorescence. This spikelet bears either one or in some cases numerous florets. Here the stigma is feathery and the fruit is technically called as caryopsis. Now we will discuss its taxonomy. We will start from its habit. The members of the family Poaceae are mostly either annual or perennial herbs, or sometimes they can be rarely shrubs or trees, as we see in the case of bamboos. When they are perennial herbs, they are often with either rhizomes, stolons, runners, etc. Now second, the root. As it is a monocot, here the root system is adventitious. The root system is often endomycorrhizal. Now the stem. In this case, the stem is commonly known as culm. These are rounded or elliptic in outline, woody textured in the case of bamboos. The stem shows the character of hollow internodes but jointed and swollen nodes associated with silica bodies. Now the leaves. Leaves are mostly alternate, but sometimes they can be spiral also. Commonly extubulate, two-ranked, and they consist of number 1 sheath, ligule, and the blade. The sheaths tightly encircle the stem internodes and their margins are overlapping but never fused. The ligule comprises of a membranous flange or a fringe of hairs at the adaxial apex of sheath. The leaf blades are simple, usually linear, bifacial, parallel veined, and often auriculate at base. Now the inflorescence. Inflorescence can be either terminal or it can be axillary spikelets. These spikelets are arranged into secondary inflorescences like racemes, as we see in case of Poa. They can be in the form of spikes as commonly seen in triticum, or they can be even form glomerule. The spikelets are basically sessile or sometimes they can be stalked. They are opposite or diastasis on the inflorescence axis. Each spikelet is composed of an axis called as rachila. It bears two ranked and closely overlapping basal brackets called as glumes and the florets. The glumes are usually two, equal or unequal in size, but there can be rare cases where the glumes are just single, as in the case of Monera. Now the florets, they can be either one, as we see in the case of Hordeum, or they can be numerous per spikelet, as we see in the case of Poa. Each floret consists of a minute lateral axis with additional bracts. In addition to glumes, we have additional bracts here called as lemma and palea, and then it is followed by a flower. The lemma is the lower and the larger bracket. It is typically with an odd number of veins. Second bracket, what we know as palea, is the upper one and smaller one. It's often translucent with two veins, and it is partially enveloped by lemma. Most often, a needle-like awn, which can be straight or bent, may be present at the apex of either glumes or lemma. Now the flower. Flower in the case of Poaceae is very small. It is reduced in both in size as well as in number of floral parts. That's why it's technically called as floret. It's not pedicellate, it is a sessile flower, and it's zygomorphic. The flowers are here usually bisexual, but rarely they can be also unisexual, as we see in the case of Zea. In such a situation, the plants can be either monoecious or dioecious. The flowers are often hypogynous, which are enclosed in lemma and palea. Now the perianth. As typically seen in the case of dicots, in case of monocots, we have no distinction of sepals and petals. Same is true for the Poaceae. Here, the perianth, because we have the flowers, they are highly reduced. The perianth can be either absent, or when it is present, it is represented by two laudicules. These laudicules are translucent and are located on the lower side towards the lemma. Upon swelling, the laudicules function to open the floret by separating the lemma from the palea. Now the male part of the floret is called what we know as androecium. Androecium is composed of 3 stamens. Sometimes there can be 6 stamens also, as in the case of Oryza, or their number can be more, as we see in Arundinera. The plaments are free and the anthers are usually sagittate. They are basifixed to versatile. They are pendulous on elongate plaments, diathecous and longitudinal in dehiscence. Here the pollens are monoporate. Now the female part of the floret, gynoecium, is composed of 3 carpels, but it often appears just 2. Why? Because here we see the reduction of 1 style. The gynoecium is syncarpous, ovary is superior, unilocular with 1 orthotropous or anatropous ovule. The ovule is bitegemic. The styles are here 2. As I already mentioned that 1 style is highly reduced. Stigmas can be either 2 or 3. But a characteristic feature of Poaceae is the stigma are feathery, technically called as plumose. The stigmatic surface have the papillae, which are multicellular. And one more important character of Poaceae is that the placentation is basal. Nectaries are here absent. Now the fruit. Fruit is here single-seeded caryopsis, wherein the fruit wall is fused to the seed. Seeds are endospermic, and the embryo is with a highly modified cotyledon known as scutellum, that is lateral in position. The flowers of Poaceae are wind pollinated, and the fruit known as caryopsis, it is often associated with parts of spikelet for its dispersal. Second part of the lecture is systematic position of Poaceae. 2 British taxonomists, Bentham and Hooker, classified this Poaceae under the class Monocotyledons and under the series Glumaceae. Later on, Cronquist, an American taxonomist, ranked it at the division Magnoliophyta, class Liliopsida, subclass Ericidae, and the order Cyperales. Later on, a Russian taxonomist by the name of Orman Takhtajan again ranked it at the division Magnoliophyta, class Liliopsida, but he gave a subclass Communilidae and also recognized it as superorder by the name Poaceae and the order Poales. Dahlgren, a Danish botanist, ranked this Poaceae family at the class Liliopsida and subclass Lilidae, superorder Communilidae, and the order Poales. Robert Thorne recently ranked it at the class Angiospermae, subclass Communilidae, superorder Communilidae, and the order Rationales. Very recently, Angiosperm phylogeny group, which is a collaborative group of taxonomists who have proposed a rankless classification, they recognize Poaceae under the monocots and the subclade Communilinoid and the order Poales. Now the third part of the lecture, that is phylogeny. Crosses are easily recognized because of their some peculiar characters. Also, their monophyly is well supported, both by morphological and DNA-based characters. Recent molecular systematic studies based on various genes like RBCL, NDHF, RPOC2, ITS, granule-bound storage synthase 1, and phytochrome B sequence data are in close conformity with many phylogenetic hypotheses that were inferred from morphological data. At present, 12 subfamilies are recognized in the family Poaceae, which include the 3 earliest diverging lineages, namely Anemoculidae, Pharoidae, and Pulidae. Then followed by one more subclade, so-called BEP subclade. Here, the B stands for Bambusoidae, E stands for Arrowroidae, and P stands for Poaceae. Then it is followed by a subclade called as Pacade. P stands here for Panicoidae, A for Arundinoidae, C for Chloridoidae, again C for Centricoidae, A for Aristoidae, and D lastly for Danthonoidae. These are the 12 subfamilies presently recognized under the family Poaceae. All these families are monophyletic in nature. The earliest diverging families like Anemoculidae, which is native to Brazil, was previously included in the subfamily Bombusidae. However, they are clearly distant from the other Poaceae groups because they have a unique inflorescence which does not resemble characteristic spikelet of grasses. The other 2 earliest diverging families, Pharoidae and Pulidoidae, were also traditionally included in the subfamily Bambusoidae. However, they also differ in having single flower in Pharoidae and multiple flowers in Pulidoidae. Now the fourth part of the lecture, that is diversity. When we talk about number of species, Poaceae basically ranks only just behind Asteraceae, Orchidaceae, and Fabaceae. That means it is the 4th largest family in the world in terms of species richness. At present, the family is represented by about 650 genera, having more than 9,500 species. Some of the species-rich genera in this family are Poa, 500 species, Panicum, 450 species, Pastuca, represented by 430 species, Paspalum, 350 species, Stipa, 300 species, Bromus, 160 species, Elymus, 150 species, Bambusa, 125 species, Cetiaria, 100 species. These were some of the species-rich genera in this family. Members of this family, they show a cosmopolitan distribution. If we start from poles to equator, we see everywhere grass is growing. If we start from sea level to the mountain peaks, everywhere we see the grasses. not only in all types of altitudes and latitudes, but also in all types of climates and habitats. Grasses are everywhere. Grasses are basically important components of many terrestrial ecosystems, particularly grasslands. For instance, in the North America, we have prairie. In South America, pampas. In Africa, we have velds. And Eurasia, we have the steppes. These are the different types of grasslands, while the main component is the grasses. These different grasslands, which I mentioned, they account for 24% of the Earth's total vegetation. One more type of grass that belongs to the family Poaceae is the woody bamboos. They play a crucial role in the forest ecology in tropical and temperate Asia. Now, the fifth part of this lecture, that's the economic importance of the Poaceae family. The members of this family are of great economic importance. The paramount chief role of the family lies as a source of food. About 70% of the world's agricultural land is cultivated with crop species which belong to the family Poaceae. Over 50% of our energy intake comes from basically grasses. In fact, humans have been cultivating cereals which are the grasses, such as rice, scientifically named as Oryza sativa, wheat, scientific name Triticum aestivum, maize, scientific name Zea maize. These crops have been cultivated for at least 10,000 years and has made possible the rise of civilization. In terms of global production, global agricultural production, the four most important crops are wheat, rice, maize, and the sugar cane. Some other food crops in the family include barley, scientifically known as Hordeum vulgare, pearl millet, Penicetum glaucum, rye, scientific name Sickle cereal, sorghum, scientifically known as Sorghum vulgare. These are some other food crops in addition to the cereal crops. Grasses are extensively used as livestock forage crops. Some of the major forage grasses are Andropogon, Agropyron, Phyllum, etc. Grasses such as Cynodon, Agrostis, they are widely used in our lawns and in making turfs. Sugarcane, which is basically a grass, is a major source of commercial sugar. Grasses as a source of sugar are used in the fermentation of alcoholic beverages such as beer, whiskey, etc. The grass, which has a tree habit called as bambusa, commonly known as bamboos, are used extensively in construction works, wicker work, roof thatching. The edible and young bamboo shoots, they are used as a source of food, or they can be used as a source of fiber for paper industry or pulp for rayon making. A grass by the name of lemongrass, scientifically known as Symphopogon, its leaves are distilled to yield essential oil. The mature grains of a grass, commonly known as job steers, scientifically known as Coax lacrima jobi, they are used in making necklace beads. Dear students, with this, we come to the end of today's topic, that was taxonomy and diversity of family Poaceae. Hope you have enjoyed the lecture. See you again with some another topic. Till then, goodbye.